Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Today we're going to be talking about my top 15 books for 2020. And I'm super excited about it because I have a lot of good books on this list. So we are going to be going in order from 15 all the way up to 1, and if you saw my last video you probably already know what my top read of the year was this year. Now there are going to be not this year, in 2020. Now there are going to be a few books on this list that you have not heard me talk about this year because I didn't do an October, November, December wrap up because I was just not in here, and it was just too much for me this year. So we are gonna hope that 2021 I kick myself in the butt and I make myself do a lot of things that I need to do this year. I already have a whole list of things that I want to do, and I'm going to share those with you in a later video. But today we're talking about the top 15 books, and again they're in order from least to greatest, or I should say from 15 to 1. But let's just jump right into it. So we have The Philosopher's Flight by Tom Miller. Tom Miller. This is coming in at number 15. This was the one of the first books that I read in 2020, and I was just looking for fantastical books that were a little bit different, and this popped up on my list. And this is about a boy, or a teenage boy named Robert, and his mom is one of the head people in the rescue and evacuation teams, and this is set during one of the not the Civil War, I think it's World War II, I believe. It's one of the wars for the U.S., and the rescue and evacuation team is only women are the only people that are in this, but Robert really wants to follow in his mother's footsteps because she is one of his biggest role models, advocates for believing in doing what you believe, following your dreams, and he really wants to be a part of the evacuation or rescue and evacuation department. He does go through a lot of different things. He goes to an all-girls school where he is kind of ostracized from everyone else, but there is another boy there who wants to be a part of the evacuation and rescue team as well. He meets a girl. It's a good time. There's competition. There's just a lot of stuff. And it does have very dark themes to it, so just be mindful of that. But if you like these type of books, like competition books, school setting books, fantastical books, where people rescue other people and people actually think about other people rather than themselves, this would be the book for you. I really did enjoy this, and I have the second book in this series, which is what's it called? The Philosopher's War. So he's in school here. The second book is about a war, evidently. So I'm not super excited about it. I really did enjoy this book. It's a really, really good pick. Alright, coming in number 14. This was another book that I read in the beginning of the year, and this is The Sunken Motel by Simone St. James. And y'all, this is one of the best ghost mystery horror books that I have ever read before. I didn't talk about it enough in 2020, but it is one of my absolute favorites. I absolutely love this. It has a mystery aspect to it about a murder. It's murder mystery. It switches back time from the 1980s to present day. It is just a good time. And so this is about a girl named Carly who goes to the Sunken Motel to try to figure out what happened to her aunt, because her aunt disappeared. People think that she was murdered. People think that she just ran away. She really wants to find out, but lo and behold, this motel is also known for being haunted. And Carly gets sucked into the world, and she meets a guy who helps her along the way. She meets a possible murder. She meets all of these different people, and she doesn't know if it's real or if her mind is just playing tricks on her. But this is fabulous. This is a great time. If you have not read this book, or if you've never heard of it, you really need to pick it up because it is so good. If you like ghost stories, if you like murder mysteries, you really need to pick this up. It's really, really good. Alright, coming in at number 13, I never thought that I would have read a book like this, but if you watched my last video, I did mention it in this. And coming in at number 13 is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. This is a fantasy science fiction-y book about New York City coming to life and the suburbs having to fight for the city to make sure that the city survives, because otherworldly creatures, elements, maybe aliens, come and try to take over cities who are starting to come to life. And it is so freaking good. It is a wild ride. If you get a chance to listen to the audiobook, I recommend you go that way. I had a harder time reading it just normally, but when I listened to the audiobook, I could not stop listening to it. The narrator is fabulous. The narrator is able to hone in to all the different New York accents of the different suburbs, the sound effects, the villain in this. She has this like iconic laugh. The narrator has the iconic laugh, and you just like, it gave me goosebumps when I heard the laugh. But it is an awesome time. I'm sure you've heard of this. If you haven't read it yet, you really need to pick it up because it's really, really good. The next book I read, this was one of my reads in November, I believe, so you probably didn't see me talk about it, but I did talk about it a little bit previously. This is called The Winds of Fate, and this is by Lucia Amobi, and this is a historical, oh, I have hair in my mouth. I think I just ate a hair. This is a historical romance, and it is actually based on a true story. So I can't remember which island it is. It is based in the French government. So the French government basically stole people and put them on this island for them to survive so they could expand their society and so they could prove to other countries that they were able to survive. So that's basically what this book is based on. But we have our main character Leah and our main character Andrew, and before they get on the ship to go to this island, they have to choose, or Leah has to choose a mate or her husband. After Leah picks Andrew, they then have to consummate their marriage, and it's one of the first scenes in the book, so it's not a spoiler, but that scene in the book was a really hard read because a lot of the women, they didn't even get to talk to the man that they picked. They just picked somebody, and a lot of these men are not good people. They are very hard men. Some of them just wanted to do this because they were promised money, and some of the women are treated really, really terribly in this book. But Andrew is a protector. He automatically, when Leah picks him, he protects her. He makes sure that she is okay during the consummation between them, and when they actually get to the island, he provides for her, and that just makes their relationship even stronger. So it's kind of like a friends to lovers thing, but not really. It's very hard to explain. It's a marriage. I wouldn't say marriage of convenience because neither of them really want to get married, but they have to. It's a really hard concept, but just know that acquaintances, friends, and then after they get to know each other, that's when they really fall in love with each other. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story. This is Luisa Amobi's first novel, and it is rock solid. Like, I can't pick out anything negative from this book besides the first couple of scenes, but it's so good. It's so good. If you can get your hands on this, pick it up because it's really, really good. If you do buy it off Amazon, because I think that's where it's primarily sold, the cover has changed from this. This is one of the first covers, so just letting you know that. But hey, there's the other cover right there. That's another cover. That's the new one. But yeah, it's so good. Pick it up. Alright, where am I at? 15, 14, 13, 12. Coming in at number 11 is Freshwater by OAKNC, and you've already heard me spout out about this book because it is fabulous. This is about a person named Ada who is from Nigeria, And Aweke Emzi is actually Nigerian as well, so this is an autobiographical novel. And Addie and people think that they are mentally unstable, and people think that they are just wasting their life away. It is such a beautiful novel. It's speculative, it's contemporary, it's fantastical, it is all these different things in one, and it is such a good read. It teaches you so much about the Nigerian culture as well. I absolutely loved it. If you haven't read this, pick it up because it's so good. Like, don't sleep on this because it's really good. Alright, coming in at number 10 is The Girl Who Could Move with Her Mind. The reason why I don't say that word is because I don't cuss on my channel, if you haven't figured that out yet. But this is by Jackson Ford. This is a science fiction novel about a girl named Tegan who is a part of the secret government society job thing. She has telekinesis, and she is part of a secret team, like I said, for the government. And in this one, I believe in the second one too, she's quirky, she's sarcastic, she's hellfire, she is just like in your face constantly, and she's so funny, and she just makes the novel. I really want to be her friend. But a body turns up, and she is the only one who has that specific power, who could actually do it, who could actually do that to somebody. And so she is picked out of the group because she's the only one that they know of. And then lo and behold, she meets somebody else, and things get crazy. But this is really this was a cover buy for when I walked by it at Barnes & Noble like 15 times and finally picked it up, and I am so excited that I did. The second book in the series just came out, and I haven't got to pick it up yet, but I do plan on reading it very soon. So if you haven't picked this up yet, you really need to. It's quirky, it's awesome, it's just like a wild ride. You need to read it. My foot's asleep again. You would think that I would know, like, not to sit Indian style, because my foot is like tingly. Alright, coming in at number 9, I don't have this book physically, but it's still like one of those books that's like in my brain. I read this December, one of those. I read it either at the end of November or the beginning of December. And this Flowers on the Moon by Billy Chapata. It is a collection of poetry. And I have a question for you. Have you ever read something and it just hit you like this? You knew that you needed it, and it's instilled in your brain. Have you ever read something like that? Because that's exactly what this book did to me. I don't know about you, but 2020 was kind of a rough year for me. Like it was a lot of people mentally, not financially or anything like that. My husband and I are very fortunate to be where we are, but just mentally, physically exhausted with work and just the way that the world's going, and how people are treating each other, and just all the different things that happen in the world. But this collection of poetry really made me, or it really put me on the right track, like back on the right track with my mental state, because it is just talking about self-love, it's talking about forgiveness, it's talking about letting things go that you can't control. And if you know me personally, Mama, I know that you're probably watching. I am the most worrisome, anxious person ever. I want everybody to love everyone, and I want people just to be happy. So that this book really helped me out. And it's gorgeous. If you've never read any of Billy Chapata's writing or poetry, you really need to pick him up, because he is so wonderful. He just hits you in the heart, and it just makes you feel all kinds of different things. But it's such a good feeling. Like, it's so good. So good. Pick it up if you haven't already. It just came out this year. I have another collection of his poetry. It's called Chameleon, that I picked up, good Lord, like 7-8 years ago when I was still in my undergrad. So, yeah. Wow. It was about 7 years ago. But I've kept it on my shelf, and I reread it all the time, so that must tell you something. Alright, number 8 is Trouble with Hating You. Sorry about the glare. And this is by Sajni Patel. This is about a girl named Leah and about a guy named Jay. This is actually an arranged marriage type thing. Leah is considered ruined because she did not save herself for marriage. Jay doesn't really want to get married. He has no interest in it. He has a really troubled past and he just can't get through, or he can't get over that. Leah has a really troubled past as well. So it does have darker themes and elements to it, but Leah is a force. Wow. She speaks her mind. She's just like not in your face, but if you say something and she doesn't like it, she's going to tell you right then. So that's a lot of the reason why a lot of people don't like her too, because I think they're intimidated by her, because she is a powerhouse, like boss babe. She dresses how she wants, she acts how she wants. She loves her family, but there was something that happened to her in the past where her family, her dad and her don't really see eye to eye very well, because he's very traditional and she's not. And he's kind of a douche. But anyways, this was a really, really good romance. Jay, I guess I should talk about Jay. Jay is, I wouldn't say cinnamon-rolly. I would say he's more of a butthole. He's a butthole, but he's a nice butthole. That makes sense. I love them together. I think they were a good opposites attract type thing. But yeah, loved it. I loved it. Loved it. It's really, really good. It's very emotional too. I cried during that. Like, boohoo cried. Yeah, I cried during it because it's very emotional. Especially when we find out, I guess I should hold it up, especially when we find out what happened to Leah and what happened to Jay. It's like there's a scene in the book almost at the very end where they're talking to each other and telling each other about what happened to each other, and yeah, they both protect each other and they both help each other through that moment, and I really thought their relationship was beautiful. Okay, going to something that's not quite as hard-hitting as some of these books, and you've heard me talk about this series, like, you're probably tired of me talking about it, but I had to include it in here because it's really good. Coming in at number 7 is the Tourist Attraction, or just the Moose Spring series in general. This is about, or this book in particular is about Graham and Zoe. Graham is a very grumpy part of the society. He doesn't like all the tourists coming in. He thinks that they're ruining his town, and Zoe is in town. She's a tourist. And they meet at Graham's bar, which is called the Tourist Trap, and he's rude to his customers, but that's why he's on the map and that's why he's so popular. And Zoe's in there after she meets up with her friend Lana, and they meet, and he is infatuated with her, and Zoe's just kind of like, I don't want a relationship. Zoe's very awkward and she's quirky, and I really liked her as a character because I connected with her in such a way. And Graham kind of reminds me of my husband a little bit. He's just kind of grumpy and he doesn't like people all that much. So I thought that it was a really cute book. And Graham also has a blind dog named Jake, and Jake is just so cute. So if you're looking for a lighthearted contemporary romance that doesn't have a lot of steam to it, I would highly recommend any book in this series because they're really, really good. So yeah, she's one of my favorites that I found this year. Okay, we're almost down to the last. We're in the top 5, y'all. Top 5. Right? No, never mind. Not top 5. I can't count. And I misplaced some books. Hold on, there we go. Alright, so going back to the depressing stuff. Number 6 is My Dark Vanessa, and this is by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I read this book at the very beginning of the year, and this book is about a girl named Vanessa who ends up falling in love with her teacher. His name is Jacob Strain, and they have a really long relationship. It's over many years. I believe it's over 8 to 10 years. And Vanessa, he's one of those predators that found something in her life that she's struggling with, and he attached himself to her, and he manipulates her into believing that she does wrong when she wants to try to get away from him and try to end their relationship. And we go back and forth from modern day to the past, and the past chapters in this book are really hard to read because she's 15 years old and he's, I think, like 30-ish, maybe even 40. I can't really remember the age difference, but it's a really big age difference, and he knows that he's doing wrong because he asked her to keep it a secret. She keeps it a secret, and then her family finds out about it when she is of age. And oh my god, I just read another book that was along the same lines as this, but I have never been as angry reading a book, emotionally angry reading a book, as I have been in this, besides the book that I just finished on the 1st. But it's a really important read. It's just about, that. And I believe that mature teens and YAs, or young adult readers, should read this book because it is really, really important. It talks about men who are manipulative and who attach themselves to young girls that have some issues, and how they use that to manipulate and to get their way. And then when they don't get their way, they of course just use that manipulation to make the victim feel like they're wrong in their relationship. There's nothing wrong with their relationship. But yeah, so that's that book. It honestly was written very beautifully, but it's a very, very hard read, but it's a very important read. I think you should read it if you haven't already, if you can withstand it, because it does have a lot of trigger warnings, obviously, because of the content that I just told you. So I would read the trigger warnings before you go into this book, but just know it's a very hard read. Okay, another hard read coming in at number 5 is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is about 2 sisters who don't know anything about each other until their father dies in a car crash, and then that's when they find out about each other. It is about grief. It's about finding somebody that can relate to you. It's about sisterhood, acceptance, socioeconomic status, to where it shouldn't matter, but it actually does. They live 2 different separate lives. One of them always sees her father, where the other sister only sees her father once a year. And it's written in verse. It's written beautifully. The audiobook is fabulous. Elizabeth Acevedo is one of the sisters in this book. Oh, she narrates one of the sisters in this book, and the poetry in this, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. It hits you in all the feels. It gave me goosebumps. It made me cry. It made me think about my daddy. It made me just, it's so good. So good. If you haven't read this, which you probably have, but if you haven't read it, I recommend it to anybody. It's great. Okay, another lighthearted read is Take a Hint, Danny Brown. So, by Talia Hedberg. I went back and forth between this one and Get a Life, Chloe Brown, but this one came out on top. This is about Danny and Zaf, who are friends, and they fake date after Zaf rescues Danny from an elevator when they work at the same university. Danny is a professor, Zaf is a security guard. So they have a drill about some kind of it's like a gas that can, a toxic gas, we'll just call it that. And Danny takes the elevator instead of taking the stairs, and she gets stuck in the elevator, so Zaf has to come save her. And somebody takes a video of it, and the video goes viral, so they fake date, and then they actually have feelings for each other. But Danny is very spiritual, and she's been hurt in the past, and Zaph, people are just scared of him. He reads romance novels. He's a very brooding character, but in the inside he's very mushy, and he's a romantic. And their relationship, it's funny, it's sweet, and you just root for them the entire time you read this book. It is so good. If you haven't read anything by Talia Hibbert, you should read this book, or her sister book, which is the first one in the series, Get a Life, Playground. This was my favorite, though. I connected with Danny a lot more than I did Chloe, but they're both fabulous books. They both got 5 stars from me. Alright, and the next book coming in at number 3 should be no surprise to you, because I've been forcing it down your throat since the summer, and this is The Hollow Gods by Asia Verana. This is the first book in the Chaos Cycle duology. The second book is due to come out sometime this year. I think it's coming out like around the same time in the summer, or maybe February. There's a lot of books coming out. I can't remember. But anyways, this book is set in the Dark Hollow, which is a town. It's somewhere up north. Anyways, it's a town, and in this town there is a dreamwalker myth, a curse type thing, and young girls come up missing, and then they are found, and then a couple of days later they die. They're mutilated. They're like brutally murdered. And our main character, Mia, is a student at the local university in this town. And she's a very, very lost soul. She's having these weird dreams that nobody knows about, nobody can help her with, so she's kind of on her own. And we also have Kai, who has a secret. No, it's not going to ruin it. He is a shapeshifter, and they meet while he is in his shifted form, and then they have a romance, and it's dark, and they're trying to solve the Dreamwalker myth together, and it's just dark and it's crazy. And then there's just one character, I can't remember his name at the moment, but he is nosy, and it's all of the things that you would want in a it is YA, by the way, in a YA horror dark fantasy novel about a curse, about a town, has a romance in it, dark romance. It's all those things in that one book, and it is so good. If you like dark books based on curses that have fantastical elements to it, about things that come out of the night and murder, you would love this book. So you really need to pick it up. Again, the second book comes out this year. Okay, I finally read this, The House in the Cerulean Sea, or The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, and I absolutely fell in love with this book. This is why it's coming in at number 2. I did read it later on in the year, but it was instantly one of my favorite books that I've read this year, maybe of all time, because, oh, Lord, it was so freaking cute. It is a fantasy book about a guy named Linus, who is part of, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to shift again, who is a part of this, what do you call his job? He's a caseworker in the Department of Charge of Magical Youth. So in this world, they have homes, like orphanages, for kids who have magic abilities. And these kids are placed into homes, and one of the homes is this house where it has the most quote-unquote dangerous kids, and Linus is assigned to stay there for a month. And when he gets there, he finally meets all the kids. He's at first very scared of them, but as the novel progresses, he really realizes that the kids aren't as bad as everyone says they are, and as their files say that they are. And then, of course, we have the caretaker, and his name is Arthur. And Arthur has a secret as well, and Linus and Arthur's relationship is so freaking cute. Linus is just awkward, and he's moody, and Arthur is the total opposite. And this is just such a heartwarming read. Being a teacher myself, and seeing the relationship the author has made with these kids and seeing the transformation that Linus makes with these children, because he doesn't like to get attached because he knows that it's his job, but it's very hard to not get attached, and this just tells you how important relationships actually are. And it's just like, it's fabulous. You should really read it. It's so freaking cute, and it's so heartwarming, and it's like everything you ever wanted in a romance. You know, it is a romance novel, don't get me wrong, but I loved all the kids in it, and my heart was so happy I smiled. It maybe shed like a few tears because it's so cute, but yeah. So if you haven't read this book, I'm sure you've heard of it. If you haven't, though, you really need to pick it up. If you haven't read it and you've heard of it, it's worth every single word. Every single word. Read it. Alright. Do you think I missed a book? Because if you do, you're wrong. Because my #1 top pick of the year is a book that I have not shut up about the entire year, because it's just so freaking good. It is a non-fiction novel, which I don't read a lot of. 3, 2, 2.5. No, not 2.5. 1.5. 1. You already knew this. It's All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. Just take a moment for appreciation. Did you take it? Because if you haven't read this book, you're missing out. You're sleeping. Don't sleep on this book. This book is fabulous. It is an autobiography book about a guy named George M. Johnson, and about his journey being queer, and about his family accepting him for who he is. He was very feminine growing up. He did not have any identity issues whatsoever because he knew who he was. But he does mention in this book that he had to hide it because he wanted to be accepted. But his family accepts him, and then when he grows up and he goes to college, he is accepted into a fraternity, and he's like, his journey throughout life is so beautiful. It is very hard at times to read, obviously, but the outcome is amazing. I wish everyone's experience was like his, who is part of the LGBTQ plus community, because the way that people accepted him should be how everyone is accepted, no matter your sexual orientation, no matter your identity, no matter anything. And I can't say enough good things about this book. I cannot say enough good things about George M. Johnson himself. This book is just amazing. I read it off of audio. I listened to it on audio, and then I read it a second time just on my own. And both experiences were amazing, and I learned things both times I read it. If you have not read this book, you need to. It is being adapted into a series as well, and George M. Johnson is one of the co-writers on it too, so that's really exciting. This book just blew up, and it should, because it deserves every good thing said about it and more. If you have not picked this up, you really need to. It's beautiful. Just like look at the cover. Oh my god. I can't. But alright, y'all. So those are my top 15 books that I read in 2020. If you read any of these books and you love them as much as I do, let me know down below. If I didn't mention something that was your favorite, let me know down below. I would like to know what your favorite books were for 2020. I hope that 2021 is much better to all of us. I hope that health and financial situations and all that kind of stuff are good, and just love each other, y'all. Love each other. You will see me soon. I will be on a more set schedule. Just things have been happening back to back to back to back to back, and my brain was just not all here. But anyways, if you have not hit that subscribe button, please do that down below. If you like this video, let me know what you want to see next, and I will see you on my next video. Hope you have a fabulous day, night, wherever you are. Bye, y'all.